Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Today, on episode 345, I am very lucky, privileged to have Dave Nordell on the podcast today. He is a military transitioner, life coach, keynote motivational speaker, number one best-selling author, uh, CEO of Max Fabulous Consulting, which is a non-profit, by the way. And he is a former, uh, well, he is a retired Air Force commander, as like commander, chief, a master sergeant. My apologies for that, but
That's
yes.
okay. It's a mouthful.
Well, what can I say? I got tongue tied. But Dave, how are you today, sir? How are you
I'm
today?
fine. I'm Max Fab, right? I'm
Ah,
maximum fabulous. So that's
yes,
because that's where you got to be. That's where you got to start. That's what you got to do. So, yeah,
I
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm liking the whole maximum fabulous, but like, you know what? Before we get to your maximum fabulous lifestyle, so now, how does someone go from a dairy farm? Have to ask,
Mm,
to like the military. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a few influential people in my life that had fought in World War II, in Europe, and and I had teachers and that type, and I guess I was just drawn to service. The farming industry, especially dairy farming. I think that everything that you need to learn in life, you learn on the farm. I mean, that's all there. There's adversity and hard work, and there's triumph, and there's getting to see the fruits of your labor, and Mother Nature intervenes and can ruin things, and there's death and there's life, and it's all happening all simultaneously. I think that's a good setup for life. You don't know everything when you leave the farm, but it's a good setup for kind of what life throws at you. But from the time I was a kid, everything was always about somebody else. The animals always ate first. You don't
Mm,
feed yourself and then feed the animals. You have to. Everything is something's always more important than you. And when you're serving at that level, you want to continue to serve, and in the states and even in the UK. Military service is, probably, the ultimate in servitude. When you decided that you'll put your life on the line for the greater good of anybody, and, millions of people you've never met. I think it all kind of lines up.
mm. I do find it interesting because, like, yeah, obviously, yeah, as you said, being in a dairy farm, there is like challenges, like obstacles to overcome. There is life, there is death, but it's a very much, how can I say, very much a organic like thing. Whereas, okay, when if like when you think when I think of the Air Force, like out
Mhm,
of all of the sort of armed forces, like
mhm,
bar the Navy, it's like,
right.
yeah, it's very much like, yeah, like steel and technology, and that's going on, which is like
Yeah,
1,000 miles removed from that. Like with regards to sort of doing your service, I would have thought like
sure.
being a farm lad, you'd be like, yeah, the Marines or the Army, or like
Oh, yeah. I kind
yeah,
of see. Well, the services are all kind of stereotypically put together. So there's actually a story behind that. I actually wanted to go in the Navy. I wanted to go on ships and be in the Navy. And when the recruiters were all in a room together, the Navy recruiter was not such a kind man. And and the Air Force guy put his arm around me and said, "I think that we can help you out." And so I just ended up heading down the Air Force path because it didn't matter to me, the Army or the Marines or the Navy. It didn't matter to me. It was just about service. And I ended up going into medicine. I ended up being a medic and then putting myself through nursing school. And I'm a nurse. I did in your world it's the casualty, in our world it's the emergency room. So as a
Mm,
casualty nurse forever, and my combat time took me through all of that. So still serving people, right? Even up
yeah.
until this time in my life, still serving people. But yeah, the Air Force side tech. It's kind of funny that service is all over rivalries, and the Army and the Marine Corps. are those are the core units of our military. They're the people that have their boots on the ground and they do that level of work. But I've never met a soldier or a Marine that has been in true combat that has anything negative to say about the Air Force because for 40 almost 50 years our soldiers and Marines have never had to worry about attack from above, and that's because of us. So it all works together. It all works together. And yeah, it is high tech, and you train differently for that kind of stuff. But yeah,
Mm. So, like, this is the thing. I have to like, what can you tell me what it was like to sort of like when you like transitioned from being like a good old farm lad
yeah.
to like, yeah,
So,
a green-eyed recruit. What was that like?
ah, the discipline required to get through that um, was not difficult for me because I used to joke when I got to basic training. I used to joke that I went in the military so I could sleep in because actually I had to get up earlier to milk cows than I did. If you're on the farm and you're working, you got to get up earlier or do, keep worse hours. Um, but I'll tell you, the biggest transition really wasn't like from the farm to the military. The biggest transition was from being a farm kid in rural Northern California, where the community was Portuguese and Mexican. I
Mhm.
didn't grow up around any blacks. I didn't grow up around, Jewish people. I was so myopic to the rest of the world and what people's lives are like and how they navigate through the world. And so I'm plopped into a barracks with 50 other people, and it's a whole melting pot of America. It's every race, creed, color, religion, short of gender. There wasn't any female. Everybody is there. I was made a student leader, so now I'm leading 12 people while I'm trying to get through training myself, which was interesting. You're nobody's friend then. Nobody likes you. And I was made a leader, and I quickly learned that I had a lot to learn about people. And I had to put myself in some really, really, really uncomfortable situations. And I had to do a lot of listening and build levels of empathy so that I could understand people at a level because you can't lead and live and interact in the larger world if you just have very small lens to look through. So yeah, I mean that was the number one challenge. You come off of a dairy farm and you end up in a barracks room full of people from inner city Philadelphia and St. Louis and the bigger city, just all different walk of life. Think different, talk different. Um, the things that came out of my mouth that were just commonplace at the dinner table when I grew up, totally unacceptable out in the bigger world. I had a lot to learn. Luckily, through the grace of other good humans, I was given the opportunity, without being punched in the nose. I was given the opportunity to kind of get my eyes opened up, and that happened early in life. It's the biggest blessing ever, biggest
Mm.
blessing ever. And part of it, I'll take credit for some of that because I really had to push myself socially.
Like, this is the thing. I would like putting yourself in that realm of discomfort. Like, it must have been, how can I say? Like, as you expressed, it was challenging to say the least. But like, what would you say? Like, what was what would you say you took? Was there certain assumptions you made beforehand, like before you like sort of got into the whole realm of it? And what
Oh yeah.
was one of those assumptions?
Well, you know, um, I grew up at a kitchen table that was full of jokes. And the
Oh,
jokes were really, really, really unacceptable jokes. I didn't know they were unacceptable. You don't know any different, right? And so I was filled with a lot of stereotypes. So I do a keynote speech when I do my motivational speaking. I do a keynote speech predicated on this conversation right here. And I call it the 25-yard gap. And the 25 yards is representative of the distance of the barracks. And I'm on one side of the barracks leading 12 people. And on the other side of the barracks is a person that's 25 yards away. And if I would have led them and continued to walk through life based on the assumptions that I had of them, based on their color or their stature, or how they walked or whatever it was, how they talked or their accent or anything,
mm,
If I would have done that, I'd have been 100% wrong 100% of the time. And so, yeah, I was full of assumptions and full of bias and full of prejudice and all kinds of things that, to me, I thought I was, the wholesome, good American kid. And then I get in this environment and I start to find out that there's a bigger world out there. People aren't all like me, and I shouldn't expect them to be like me. And so it's my job to cover the 25 yards. Ideally, everybody would cover 12 and a half, yards, meters, kilometers, whatever it is, 20 kilometers, 20 clicks, Um, if everybody was doing that, we wouldn't have the level of emotion that we have within our societies right now because people operate, and they speak, and they make decisions based off of these assumptions that you mentioned. As soon as that starts happening, you're off course. If you have an assumption and it's gonna and that assumption is gonna drive something that's extremely important in life or leadership or whatever. If you have an assumption, even like you're raising kids, if you make an assumption about their teacher and you don't go clean that up and make sure your assumption's either correct or get the right perspective, there's not going to be a relationship there for your kids to thrive.
mm.
And and so luckily for me, I had a couple of people pull me aside, ask me some very pointed questions without a lot of emotion, kind of understanding. I think that they were mature enough to do that. And luckily for me, I think I was raised the right way, that light came on for me to understand that it's not just my way. And as soon as that started happening, boy, I started growing, buddy. You start growing and growing and growing and growing, and that's the best part.
Yeah, no, but like this is the thing. You raise an important point about like, yeah, like people today, they could make that sort of like move, like that sort of move 12 and a half, like the
Mhm.
12 and a half yards, like instead of like staying at the back. I would say with a lot, like with what you did, like joining the military, but taking on that sort of leadership role, like you could have easily stayed in your bubble in some regards, because like, yeah, you could like, okay, those
Yeah,
guys are
it's
over
easy.
there and I'm
Yeah,
gonna stay. Yeah. I think much of today, there are so many people now just in their own individual bubbles and they can't sort of see or like, well, just simply see or open themselves up to other people's perspective and to help help themselves grow and become better people. It's just that much harder. And like, yeah, I would say just as a sort of outside observer, like being in the military, it's like people go, we join up to the military, but they have all of their sort of different ideals and why they're doing it. But yeah, I imagine it takes a little bit of time to get that sort of shared purpose, which I think is severely lacking into this today's
yeah,
society. Uh,
I
when
agree.
did you like, yeah, when did you feel like when you started that you felt that sort of everyone had that shared purpose in
No, I think
regards?
it's the first time. Well, and basic training is kind of set up for that, right? It's the first
Mm,
time that you have to face adversity in a situation where you can't handle it by yourself.
mm,
It's the first time that you have to actually understand that the only way to have moved forward, to accomplish things, to be successful requires the team. And in that situation, you've got a team of 50. Marching is a great example of that. Why do we march? Well, people think, oh, well, you got to get them here. No, you march because everybody has to. When you march, you're looking at the guy in front of you to make sure you're straight. You're looking at the guy to the right of you to make sure that you're in line with them. And you're looking at the guy to the left of you to make sure you're in line with them. And you've got to be straight because the guy behind you is doing the same thing. There's no way that that whole thing doesn't work without everybody relying on everybody. And so once that reality sinks in that there's just things in life and leadership and especially in the military profession that will absolutely not get solved or be successful without this team. And then when you're pushed together into this team, it's a forced march to close the 25 yards. And once the 25 yards is closed, you almost have to have the conversation. You almost have to start building the empathy. You almost have to start relating because that's who you're playing the game with.
Mm.
and it's magical. But, to your point previously, some people don't. Even in the military, they'll do a whole career and they don't. They stay, and it's because of fear. There really is the fear and uncomfortableness of having to do that, and fear and pain are what drive a lot of our decisions, right? We don't do things in life because it's scary or looks painful or horror. We just don't do things. And when pain and fear are in front of stuff, it's very powerful. And so they're good. You have to have the right leaders. You got to have the right people around. You can sometimes you have to walk the 25 yards to set the example so that the other person can learn to walk the 12 and a half. It's, it's, I wish I could say that that was just commonplace and it just happened all the time. But this is a lot of hard work. I talk about this a lot with people and closing up this gap. And sometimes it's even in the family. This is not just walking down the street. I mean, this is moms and sons, daughters and fathers, and all of that. I mean, there's gaps there, and you have to have courage to close them up, or else you won't grow. And when you stop growing, it gets a lot of other things come along with that. It can be kind of damaging.
Kind of damaging. How so?
Well, I think it definitely weighs on your mental health. I
Mm.
think it definitely closes doors for you on maybe some aspirations you've had because if you can't get into this growth mode, people see that. So you may not get opportunities that you wish you had. That may be at work, moving up the ladder. It may be in a relationship. It may be, just, life, love, and leadership, that I write about. And then in those three things, if you want to progress in those and get to a place that's, we're always trying to work to whatever would be nirvana. That'll never happen, right? Life's hard. It's always got three cobbles. But if you're trying to do that, again, back to the team thing, there's going to have to be people that are involved in your growth and your development and getting you to these places that you want to get to. And if you're not demonstrating the ability to take on some fear and pain and be uncomfortable and demonstrate uh, the ability to grow that way, people notice that and they'll bypass you for somebody else that's doing it.
Yeah. No, I think it's so easy. People fall into that trap. I think sometimes it comes also, it's not like just a case of, oh, it comes from hatred. I think it's just like, yeah, pridefulness. And as you said, fear. And like, as they say, pride, you come like, and falling goes sort of hand in hand. Yeah. Um, so would you say with regards to yourself and your sort of like attitude, like,
Mm,
you've like you said, you're like much more of an open person, and like that first
mhm,
sort of sessions made you to be that. Was
sure.
it a case of you then went, "I'm an open person, let me embrace the world," or was it like many more steps than that?
Well, a lot more steps, because quick, I guess it's like, not that I'm a gamer, I'm not a gamer, but I'll use the example because it'll transect all the generations. When you pick up a game and you start to play it and it has levels,
Yes.
when you get through level one, right? All the game does is say, congratulations, and then it puts you into level two. And you may have to play level two 10 times before you get to level three. And you keep working through those levels. And life, there is no max level. You you're always working on the next level. And quite frankly, the next level is a little more difficult, a little more difficult, a little more difficult. But if you do it, you can become a master, right? You can become a master of that craft of being able to do that. And at some point in time, you go from continuous development to being a sensei, to being a mentor, and to trying to help other people. And when this phenomenon that I'm talking, this closing of the 25-yard gap, when it kind of becomes natural, that gives you the space, the intellectual space, and actually the physical energy space to be able to go and invest in other people to move them forward and get them out of either a non-growth state or to help them grow even more from where they're at. And I think that's the nexus of all of it. And it doesn't mean you have all the answers. In the books, I give people stuff to think about. It doesn't mean you have all the answers, but if you've done this right, I'll give you an example. I had a young lady that I led. I was in North Dakota. I had a young lady that I led that her performance was just it was she was a high performing person and it was just terrible. It was awful. And this came down, she's female, she was black, and she was in North Dakota. So unless you were in the military, then there was no black people, right? It's a rough environment. She'd been in the Air Force for a long time, and this is a phenomenon. This happens quite frequently. And when I finally sat her down and I said, "You have to tell me what's going on because I can't help it unless I know." She said, "I can't find anybody to cut my hair, to do my hair, not cut, but to do my hair. There's nobody hair. If there's no black people, I'm always going to do a black person's hair, right?" Well, I didn't take that on. I didn't take that on. I had two female. I was a chief at the time. I was already a chief at the time. I had two black female chiefs that were on the base. They worked in different organizations. They were. She didn't know them. I did.
Mhm.
So what did I do? I said, "I'm going to send you. Somebody is going to call you." I sent them both a note. Actually, they were my neighbors. I actually walked across the street and talked to them. I walked across the street and I said, "I have this sergeant that has this problem." And they said, "Oh, that's not a problem. There's people." And I said, "Well, she has no idea." Well, that problem went away. I didn't have to try and fix that myself, but because of my ability to be out there and to grow and develop and mentor and self-develop,
Mm.
I built this network where I could go have the conversation. If I had never had the conversation or didn't feel comfortable, one is I probably wouldn't have tried to fix her problem because it would have made me feel uncomfortable. And two is I'd have never talked to another black female about how to fix her problem because I would have been uncomfortable there.
So, yeah, that's like, I
So
can
think
imagine.
so it all builds on itself. And you just have to have the fortitude to just walk across, close the 25 yards and go have the conversation. And you know what? It's okay. Yeah. Here's another thing you brought up, the pride thing. It's okay to walk up and say, and I've done this with friends and acquaintances, people I've worked with, all genre, family even, with people that have lifestyles that aren't like me. And I will start it off with, I have absolutely no idea what it's like to be gay or to be black or to be Hispanic or whatever. I have no idea what it is, but I've noticed these things. Can you enlighten me? And then if you keep your mouth shut, all the assumptions go away. All that stuff goes away. And you actually start to learn something and you grow. And you know what? Nobody ever laughs at you and goes, "Oh, you're an idiot or you're ignorant no, actually they appreciate it. I've never had a bad interaction that way. Never, ever. When you show interest in people, they smile and they start talking
Mm.
because we don't show enough interest in our fellow man.
No. I agree. Like, this is the thing I would say with like showing interest in people. I think that sometimes stems a lot of problems in like for like people's mental state because they like look at themselves and they think they're uninteresting. They've got nothing to add to a conversation or a community. They like, often lock themselves away, like not knowing, well, one, not knowing because like they might have a wealth of knowledge that someone like just is waiting for them like that knowledge to come out. And two, that yeah, they are like using your 25 yards. They're not even 25 yards, they're not even in the building, they're not even on the base. They're
No,
like hidden away. And like if they have the fortune of someone going, "Yeah, can you tell me about this?" All of a sudden it's like, who me? Uh, you
because
want that
somebody sees
information?
them.
Yeah,
Because somebody sees them. There's so many people out there that feel like nobody sees them.
absolutely. And I think this is the whole thing. And I think this goes beyond beyond which generation of this. I think there's a whole bunch of people who feel unseen, feel unheard. And like some of them react angrily, but more I would say the vast majority, I think, suffer in like, yeah, painful silence and not letting the world show them their light, what they can truly be and how much potential they have. It's just a very sad state of affairs at this present time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, uh, I speak in the DEI space. Now
Mm.
look at me, right? And people are like, well, why is this guy talking? Why is he talking in the diversity, equity, and inclusive space? And here's how I started off. Here's how I started
There's
off
the
based on everything that we've
okay.
talked about. Here's how I started off is
Yeah.
first of all, to get the message across, people like me should be talking, probably next to people with a story, right? With a diversity, equity, and inclusive story, whatever that is, wherever it's taken on a negative story or a growth story or whatever it is.
Mm.
But I tell people I have 40 years of experience in DEI, and it started in a barracks in San Antonio, Texas in 1984 because of this phenomenon that I'm telling you. And so what I tell people is that we should never be at DEI. It shouldn't have an acronym. We shouldn't have directors of DEI. We shouldn't have to, it shouldn't be there. As human beings, we should be closing the 25-yard gap and it all goes away. Because what
Mm.
drives DEI is assumptions, right? And when people are operating off assumptions, they make bad decisions. They say bad, hurtful things, and they get institutions and governments going in a direction that's not healthy. And most of it is because of pride, fear, and pain.
Yes. And the road of good intentions always leads to. Yeah. No. But like this is the thing. Like, okay, with all of this, the Air Force must have seen something really good in you with regards to like your character to like
Well,
speak to
sure,
people, lead people,
sure.
and like yeah, they gave you like well, just a little bit of responsibility. I don't know what that could have been, and like yeah, what was that responsibility they gave you uh when you were like when you were serving, like in charge of a certain arsenal? I have no idea.
Well, I mean, so it starts off with people, right? So,
Yeah.
it starts off at at a basic element level and it goes all the way up to the whole entire Air Force, right?
Uh huh.
And in the enlisted corps, you get jobs as you go along.
Uh
And
huh.
so, I started off like anybody else. I was groomed and developed. I was identified as somebody that could lead humans. I was given the
Mm.
education and the training, the leadership education and training to do that. That I was
Yeah.
given people to oversee morale, welfare, well being, training, all the things that it goes into that. You start doing that,
Uh huh. Like
and then
the reason.
that gets to be more and more and more and
Yeah.
more and more. And
Yeah.
so,
Like yeah, I
uh,
have to say, like, because, like, look, like, for someone who was like going, "Hey, let me do a little bit of plumbing here, there, and everywhere," it's like, yeah, they put you in charge of, like, yeah, was it the nuclear arsenal?
yeah,
Uh,
right. The ICBMs, right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I was a senior enlisted guy for all the missiles in the United States, all the land based missiles, not the Navy missiles. Yeah. Crazy.
it's like, it's like, I'm not going, okay, what? It's like, okay, that kind of like it's one of those things what blows my mind because that is not no, that's not a small arsenal, and like the like power behind it all. Like, like when you got the job, I have to ask, when you got the job and like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're the man. When you woke up the next day, like, did you like simply like look and go, "Oh my God, what have I done?" It's like, what was your sort of like? Can you explain what your sort of like reaction, your feelings were at the time?
No, I had been in two command positions previously, so I had some experience doing that, but not with nuclear weapons and not at that
Okay,
level. I will tell you that I picked up the phone and I called together the other leaders, the other chiefs and stuff that had been doing this for a long time. And
yeah,
I asked them one question. I said, tell me how not to screw this up. And then I shut my mouth and I opened my ears and I took some notes. And then I spent a lot of time closing a lot of 25-yard gaps before I ever did anything.
yeah,
Don't ever get tied around your title. Don't ever get tied around your job or your title. Because you know what? A brand new vice president in a company doesn't know anything about being a vice president. But if you start running around acting like you know everything because somebody made you a vice president, your people are going to leave. The second book is about that. Why people leave their leaders. Why people leave the leaders. Yeah, and that's paramount to that. So, yeah, I God bless my wife. You can get really enamored with rank and position and power and finance or influence or access or all those kinds of things. You can get pretty enamored. And
Yeah, I
I'll
can
tell you,
imagine.
there's a couple times my wife had to, pull the short hairs on the back of my neck and say, "Remember where you came from." And I'd be like, "Yep, you're right." Because you need to be really careful with that. And I think you see that in society. The average everyday guy or gal that is fortunate enough, they do the work. Granted, all the merit based, they do the work, and they end up in a high position. And the cliche is, they forgot where they came from. But really what they did was they didn't realize that they have a 360-degree 25-yard gap. You got to do it laterally, you got to do it above you, and you got to do it below you. So the higher you go, the more gaps you have, and you've got to close them. Yeah, one man never made an organization. And the magical thing is that when you're in those positions and you're just doing it all, one day you you do your final salute and you head out the door and nothing stops.
Yeah.
There's not
Like,
even it's like I tell people, it's like put your hand in a bucket of water and pull it out really quick, and there's a little bit of a ripple, and then it settles down. Like 5 minutes later, nobody ever knew that your hand was in there.
man, that is true. No, because yeah, I would if it was me and like it was like, yes, you're in charge of the whole entire ICPN. Like, like, yeah, Arsenal. I'm like, okay. It's like going, yeah, I've got to make sure it's
It's
not
a
a
lot of
bad
people
day.
to go visit, isn't it? It's a lot of
Oh
people to
yeah.
go visit. Yeah.
Oh my lord. Yeah, a lot of people. It's like, it's like yeah, just like if you have a bad day or like you pray you never get that call from like a certain house.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. We
oh,
don't, yeah. It's the mission you never want to do, but it's necessary to keep people from doing certain things. So, yeah. Yeah. It's
yeah.
magical.
No, no. I imagine. I can imagine. Now, like this is the thing. Like with 30 years of service. Now, look, it's one of the things I often like when I've often spoken to
Mhm.
servicemen and women on this podcast or like just out there in the wilderness.
Right.
Now, it there is a magical thing where, yeah, there is that shared sense of like purpose to like go out and like
Mhm.
obtain an objective.
Right.
It the hard thing which everyone seems to have is that day, as you said just now, when that last salute comes in, like that sort, like the day which was like structured, and you knew pretty much everything what was going to go on in that day ceases, and you're out there in the real world. Like, what was your like transition like? Can you tell us any stories or explain or describe how what your feelings were?
It was horrid. Horrid. So you get up every day and you salute the flag and you got a shirt on and it's got your name on there and it says United States Air Force, got a flag and everything that goes along with all that. You got your battle buddies, your wingman or whoever you're running with at the time. And you've got an organization and your direction, your mission, and your purpose are as clear as can be.
Mm,
And then you walk away from all of that and you don't have your battle buddies and your purpose is confusing at the best. And you don't have your team, your people, your tribe. It's all gone. And you get out into the civilian world, and the first thing that happens is you go to work and you show up and there's a meeting at 8 in the morning. And so you're there because you're a military guy, right? Because military people are like hot dogs, like a sausage, right? If you take
yeah.
the sausage and you put it in the microwave and you hit the button, when you open the door, it still looks like the sausage, but it's completely different because the DNA has changed. And you can't unmicrowave us, right? So that's just a thing. So you take your microwave self and you go to this meeting. So if it's an 8 o'clock meeting, you need to be there at 7:45 because
Mm,
that's what you do, right? If you're 15 minutes, if you're 15 minutes, if you're on time, you're 15 minutes late, right? So if you're
right.
15
Yeah.
minutes, so you get there, right? And you quickly find out that other people are coming, so it turns into a social event. But then when the meeting's supposed to start at 8, it really doesn't get started until 8:10 because people are filtering in. Well, automatically, everybody associated with that organization is a bunch of undisciplined savages. It's just how it goes. It's just how it goes. And everybody should be reprimanded, and there, there needs to be some discipline in the room. And by golly, what's going on here? This place is loosely run. Well, no, that's not true. It's just the civilians, when they do their calendars, smash things together. They have an 8 to 9 and a 9 to 10. They give themselves no room. They even use the loo, right? So so what? You know, but you think that that's an awful, horrible thing. Well, the problem is it's hard to process. The other thing is that if there's 12 hours worth of work to do, we'll do 12 hours worth of work. I mean, we're gonna do it until it's finished. And other people are like, no, it's quitting time. So we'll come back to this. No, you got to finish the job. So it's head knocking.
Mm,
And quite frankly, it's some of the work I do with transition. Quite frankly, right now, 50% of veterans are out of their job in the first year, and up to 80 are out in 2 years. Their first job after service for this phenomenon. It's a real thing. Especially this sense of purpose, this reassimilation, this being on a team and having the structure and those type of things. And quite frankly, the civilian, or as you put it, the real world people aren't, they don't, they don't ride for the brand anymore, right? They don't,
mm,
their shirt doesn't say Ford Motor Company or, JP Morgan or what. It doesn't, that's not what they do. They work because work is a means to drive income so that they can do what they want to do. They're not standing at attention and, part of the United States Air Force and the mission is, to protect the sovereignty of the country. That's not what they do. They go to work to get money. They're not bought into work. And by the
mm.
way, if they don't like it, they'll go get another job. There's no loyalty, I guess is what I'm saying. Not at that level. So when that doesn't exist and you don't see that, then you tend to start to try and migrate towards something that looks more like.
Like, so, as you said, 50% of like most veterans leave their jobs, and it's 80% in the second year. Like,
Yeah,
with yourself, like, how was your transition?
that was
Like, did
horrible.
you, like you
It's
said, it's
horrible.
horrible.
It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Did you manage to
Well,
keep your first job, or did you? What's
no, 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 no. And it's got, in fact, my 10-year anniversary retirement. I've been out 10 years now, and I'll tell you, those 10 years will probably harder than the 30 that I did on active duty. No, 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 no. I went through all of this. I thought I was broken. I thought there was something wrong with me until I started to do the work, closing the 25-yard gaps, trying to figure things out. And I had a near death experience. I got ill. I had a blood clot that almost killed me. And
yeah.
I really had to sit back and evaluate, where am I at? What do I want? I didn't have a team anymore and I had to rebuild my team. I had to get people in my life that I didn't have. And they didn't look like a battle buddy, a guy next to me, doing whatever. It looked like getting a therapist and actually having a conversation about what was going on. It looked like, um, and I'll tell you, here's the nexus of all of it. When you have all of this coming at you with this transition, you have two choices. And I chose poorly because I chose to be a victim. And when you choose to be a victim, everything's a downward spiral. Everything's everybody else's fault. Everything, and quite frankly, you can get to feeling sorry for yourself and make bad choices with substance, alcohol or other, bad choices with lifestyle, just relationships and those type of things. And quite frankly, that leads to some of the suicide rates that we have amongst our veteran population. So
Yeah.
when you look at that in its totality, really what needs to be learned is you have to get out of the victim state and into the honor state. And so when I talk, you'll hear I'll start some of my talks off with, I'm the proud owner of PTSD and moral injury from my time, my service time, my combat time. And I do that probably more for me than I do for the audience. Now I leave that open, if people want to run down that road and they want to talk to me about my experiences and those kind of things, I'm not going to give you gory war stories, or you might, depend on how you stumble into it, but normally I don't. I'm not going to give you gory war stories, but I'm going to talk to you about the phenomenon, and the difference between PTSD and moral injury and how all that works. And the only way to heal from that, because it's part of you forever. The only way to heal from that is you have to own it first. And then you've got to get the right help. So, yeah, it's pretty dynamic.
Mm. No, like this is the thing, as you said, like
Yeah.
unfortunately, we like the world seems to want everyone to claim that sort of realm of victimhood. Like, how much of a victim am I? And like, yes, can we narrate like I'm more of a victim than you, and this is the reason why I'm a victim, and this is that, and this, and like it goes back and forth, and like the whole thing is, as you say, taking responsibility is the furthest thing from like many a person's mind, but it's the responsibility is where the building blocks for success truly lie. Like the amount of people who just like go, okay, yeah, I owned it. Like I like this is what I did, this is how it got here, and like, yeah, like by all means, most of my life I screwed up, I messed up and everything like this, but this is what it is. Here I am. I've bid my soul, and that's like the first brick of responsibility. Put it down,
Yeah.
and when if it's done consistently, before you know it, they've built something like they've built maybe a little house or something grand and magnificent. But
Yeah.
until that day, they don't like until you do actually take that responsibility, no building is done whatsoever.
That's right. Leaders make the mistake of not being owners. And when leaders become victims, their institution stops following them.
Mm.
But most leaders, this in these days especially, because we're living in a world full of a lot of narcissism. I don't know how it propagated, but there's a lot of it out there. And
Oh,
and and
really? That's what I'm gonna say. Yeah.
and so leaders who can actually show a level of just being normal. You got a million PhDs out there that'll say, "Oh, it's transparency," and it's you know what, it's courageous, and here's
Mm,
what it is. Here's what it is. It's giving people the opportunity to know you at a level that enables them to be able to follow you.
mm,
Because if the you that you're pushing forward is the you that you think that everybody needs to see, or else it will affect your credibility as a leader, then you're a fake. People want real. They do, even in this day and age. People want real. They like the truth. They want to know what they're dealing with. Well, listen, if I'm coming to the game as your leader and I've got some weaknesses, why not just raise your hand and tell people? Why not just say it out loud? You know what? Because somebody's going to raise their hand and go, I'm really good at that. Okay. Well, the next time we need to do that, you're going to do it. That's powerful. It's not weakness. That's power. Knowledge is power only when shared. We live our whole lives. We get all of these nuggets. Remember we talked about that? We got all these nuggets. And then we don't share any because, well, they're my nuggets and I had to work hard to get them. I'm not giving them any of them to you. Man, I give all my stuff. Here, take that. Just have them. Because I'm not going to live forever. Where should I die with all that?
mm. Yeah, no, I think like if you do, it's not so much if you do hold things back, especially when it comes to knowledge, which can help empower like other people, help them like get on that path where they can either just make their life a little bit better. I'm not talking about going out there being like great, like going, yes, I had words from like, yeah, Dave here. And before I knew it, I was like leading a nation. No, it's just like, look, just to become a better people. And I
Yeah.
think when it comes down to it, if you hold that back, people don't get better. And the whole thing is, if people don't get better, only it affects our society in a negative way. Because that sort of
Correct.
knowledge, that sort of gift you could have, you're the only one who give at that present time will
Mhm.
touch or reach people in a different way than, like, if I said something, I would reach someone in a different way than if you said something. We might actually sing from the same hymn sheet. We might say it in the exact same words, but just from our like different characters and the way we just like present ourselves, it will hit differently for different people and connect in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think when people don't do that, they hold it back, like selfish with it. It just makes us more. And if there was a like time of judgment and like, yeah, they stood there and they're like, yeah, I had all of this knowledge and I kept it to myself. And like I think whoever was judging them, like, you're a wicked, selfish person, and you could have done so much more with your gifts, but you
Yes.
decided to keep them yourself. Mm,
Yeah. And
yeah.
that's that fear, right? That's that fear of looking weak or not having control or I won't look presidential if I do. I use president as a CEO. I
Yeah.
don't look like the chief executive officer. I don't look presidential because I gave so and so a leg up. Where that happens is in medicine. I worked in a teaching hospital. So you got all the young doctors that are coming through
Yes.
and these guys have been up like, 50 hours. They can barely I had a doctor one time, he did all this paperwork to admit a patient, and it was all his stuff. He admitted himself. He wrote all of his information. He was so goofy, he didn't even put it was just I watched this stuff happen. And I would go to the attendant, the big doctors that were teaching them, and I'd say, "Will you let this guy or gal will you let them go sleep?" And they would turn around and they'd go, "No." And I said, "They're ineffective." And they would say, "Well, I had to do it, so they have to do it."
Mm.
No, that's the wrong thing. You
Look,
know,
look,
if your
listen.
dad if your dad hits you with a cricket bat, does that mean you should hit your kid with a cricket bat? No,
Uh,
no.
uh,
But far too often, you don't want to see me play cricket, by the way. And I've done that. My
look,
kids knew how to play cricket and soccer before they cricket and football before American football and baseball because they
okay.
they they grew up. They started their little lives there. It was good.
Oh, well, what can I say? They were brought up in a civilized society.
I know,
Hey,
right?
yeah,
I know. Civil sport. Yep,
yeah.
absolutely.
Oh,
It's
but
good
it
stuff.
makes me laugh. Look, when you say the medical in the medical sector, look, okay, look, it would we sort of touched on like narcissism on like a small part,
Yeah.
but when
Oh
like
yeah.
you're talking about narcissism, God complex, and yeah, a sort of like need to like show, well, not show the world, but show everyone amongst their peers that I'm definitely better.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. And
yeah,
so in some professions you need a high level of self confidence that probably borders on a little bit of arrogance. But when that bleeds over into full narcissistic behavior, right?
yeah,
You don't want meek fighter pilots that say, "Well, I'm okay," and I might get shot down, I might not get shot. You don't want that. You want guys up there that you guys and gals up there that think that not only are they the best, but they're going to shoot everybody else down. That's what you want, right? You have, and quite frankly, the guy that's gonna operate on your brain, you probably want him to have a high level of self-confidence and probably a little bit of arrogance about what he's
yeah.
what he's doing, right?
You're just like, will I be okay?
But
Well,
yeah,
50-50. Who
right, yeah,
knows?
yeah, we'll see. If it's on a Wednesday, I normally don't have I don't have a good day, or if I have a bad round of golf, I wouldn't, no, they're gonna tell you 100% of the time. But what if they were so narcissistic that they put so many people off that the staff that had to take care of you during the brain surgery didn't do their job at an A+ level because this guy was a narcissist. It happens every single day. The
Like, if you're
team
saying,
fails.
yeah, yeah, team fail. Look, this is the thing. Team fails like at winning like a project. That's one thing. A team fails like during the surgery. Well, that. is that, let's just say that is a rough day for a family. Very rough
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
and like this is a
And
very
and it's not like the team is doing it on purpose. I don't want people to get the wrong idea. Like, oh, this doctor's
odd.
working today, so I'm gonna. What happens is the atmosphere is set in a way that doesn't motivate you to operate at that A plus level. You end up these are, the organizational dynamics, right? You have engaged employees. These are the people that you want. These are the people that are bought in. You have disengaged employees, which is usually your largest bunch. These are the people that you have to keep motivated and keep giving knowledge to and training and those kind of things. These are the people that do the day to day work. And then you have actively disengaged employees in your organization. These are the people that sabotage your organization. They're the ones that, you know, steal an extra 3 hours a week of time off their time card, and they barely meet deadlines, or they do sloppy work, but it's just enough that you can't fire 'em. These are dangerous people. But you know what? Nobody ever joins an organization at the actively disengaged level. The organization dictates the amount. You're going to have a certain percentage of it, but a healthy organization is in the single digits of actively engaged people. I've been in organizations when they've done the surveys that it's been up as high as 40% actively disengaged. Who do you think? Who's responsible for that? It certainly isn't the air or the temperature or the fact that you can't go snow skiing. It's the leadership.
Now, would you say, with regards to leadership, like over the last, say, 5 years, has leadership got worse, or is like I'm just
Oh,
talking
this is
across the board because like it just
a great
seems
question.
like leadership is in a weird place, if you get what I mean,
Or,
or it's not really known what it is anymore.
are you ready? You ready for this?
Oh, go for it,
It's
please.
a great question. You ready for this?
Yeah.
We have neglected the last two full generations in deliberately developing leaders. We have made hyper managers. We have made hyper project officers. We have not developed leaders. We have not put people in rooms and developed them as leaders. Leadership and management are so far apart. And people think when they're hyper managers, well, I can work the spreadsheet and I can make the numbers work out and I can move these things around and look, the bottom line's getting better and those kind of things. Those are not leaders. That's
Mm,
inanimate stuff. Leadership is about animate work. You're working on animate things, and they have feelings and they have families and they have financial issues and they have, leadership is there's no such thing as a leadership style. There's a core style that you use, but you have to transect all the leadership styles if you're going to lead everybody that's taking care of the nuclear enterprise for the United States of America. You have to be able to do a lot of things as a leader. I I was from the day I came into the Air Force to the day I left, I was being developed as a leader every single day, formal and informal.
mm,
It takes work. It takes commitment. We took or institutions. We looked at them financially. We looked at how technology was affecting that. And when we wanted to balance our bottom lines, we traded off on deliberate development of leaders collectively. You name the industry, and I can tell you that 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they had plans. People were earmarked, and you're really good at this. We probably need to get you some leadership training so that we can get you on this track to go do these things. And when you hit the spot, we're going to get you some more leadership training. And here's your mentor. And here's the people I need you to listen to. And here's some feedback formally and informally, all invested in an individual or individuals to move you forward as a leader, to get you enough experience so that you can navigate everything that leadership can throw at you. We quit doing it. And it was all because of finances. We didn't see a return on investment that was attractive enough to us, and now we're paying the price.
yeah, because this is the thing, like with regards to sort of um, growth in the quote unquote developed world. Um, it's well slowing in many of the major sort of countries, or it's stopped, or worse still, it's contracting.
Sure.
So would you just put it down to like, yeah, in the developed world, they've kind of eliminated leadership for the most part,
Mhm.
for like many a sector. And it's a very few like leaders which are out there like, well, taking as much as they can
Right.
presently.
Right. Well, remember I talked to you about the team aspect?
Mm,
And so, if you're running a country and your country is rich in natural resources, somebody has got to get up in the morning and get in a mine and go into the center of the earth and dig the resource. That requires leadership because not everybody is cut out to get into a little metal box and go into the middle of the earth, 2 miles down and dig in the side of a hill all day long to bring out natural resources, which feeds the whole machine. Here's the best example. I don't know how it is in the UK because I'm not living there now. Here's the best example in the United States. We got so wrapped around the fact that you couldn't function in our society unless you had a college education that we worked thousands of ways to get every kid in America to college. And now they get degrees in anthropology and they get out and they're working at a bank. But you know what we don't have? We don't have plumbers. We don't have electricians. We don't have people that understand engineering at the right levels. We don't have carpenters. We don't have, masons. We don't have those people. Why? Because nobody saw value in that because everybody wanted to be at the top of the chain of all of this stuff and work their way that way. And nobody wanted to be at the bottom. Well, because when you don't teach leadership, you don't understand how the whole thing works to include the average everyday person.
mm,
We were talking about football just before we came on air, and you were praying for me because I'm a Sunderland supporter, which is sheer misery. But but for Sunderland to be effective, there's people that affect that team every single day that I don't know. It's the guy that washes the kit. It's the guy that works on the pitch.
mm.
These type of people, that all has to happen. And guess what? Why do they do that, and why do they do it well? Because they have leadership. It
Yeah,
requires that. Yeah.
no, it
It's
does. And I agree. No, this is the thing with regards to okay. If you spoke to me when I was in my late teens, I would like early 20s, I was like a strong advocate for like, yes, university or bust. Like you have to get yourself a
right.
degree. Now, now, like because I like work in, I work it like my government job is working as like yeah invent sales for the building services sector,
Mhm.
and like they're like the government over here in the UK, they were talking about heat pumps and doing this and doing that to get with like the green, like it was
Sure.
green 2020 like 2030. Now it's 2035. Most probably gonna end up being 2045 or 2050. Who knows? But like here's the thing, like heat pumps, like to install a heat pump you need to have skilled technicians to do it. Okay, here's this sort of inside track with regards to like getting these skilled techs to do all of this. There's been a contraction like every sort of year, especially every 5 years, that the lecturers and teachers who basically teach these courses are retiring out, but no one's coming in to refill those jobs.
Because they're
So
bored.
there's
That's right.
huge skill gap. And like this is the thing, if I was like I'll say this to any like young kid who's like trying to figure out their way. Like, yeah, there is money to be had doing heat pump because it's not going anywhere for the next forever
Yeah.
until they find
Yeah.
something else. But they don't talk about no one talks about it. No one actually goes, hey, if like academics is not your thing, a vocation might be
Yes.
like the best part. And I'm a strong I'm like if I was the leader of the country, I'd be like going, yeah, you can't go to university until you're 21. Go out there, experience the world. If university is your thing, go when you're 21, off you go. like the only courses I'll be like, and you got to go at that. So the calling ones like
Right.
doctor, architect,
No,
engineer.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to do those things, you have to go to university. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
but everything else, but okay, yeah, there is
But,
there
but,
is another way.
but the leaders of a country have got to stand up and say, this is just as admirable to be a heat pump installer as it is to be a doctor that works in the casualty because it all fit. And leaders teach people, leaders shape people into understanding the whole continuum of this.
Mm,
Because when I was leading in hospitals, I was leading in healthcare. You know where I used to stop every day and talk to? I would talk to the people that were cleaning, the
uh,
housekeeping, the cleaning people. You know why? Because everything in the hospital starts and ends with them. If they're
mm,
not there and they're not doing their listen, if you don't clean the room, you can't put the patient in. If you don't
yes,
clean the operating room, you can't do the operation. If you
mm,
don't, all of it. If they don't do their job on the beginning and the end, it all comes to a screeching halt. But the look in their eyes when I would say that was it was the first time anybody had ever said that.
oh yeah, no, it is. But like this is the whole thing. What like when COVID, okay, now people who worked in supermarkets and like worked in hospitals, everything like this, you're a you're an essential worker. You're a key worker. You got to do it. Like bravo for you
Hero,
and fighting the good
heroes,
fight. Yeah,
heroes. Yeah,
there you go. Soon as like look, basically, soon as we got to 2022, 2023, for like 2020, no, 2024, forget that stuff. Yeah, yeah, you work in a supermarket, son.
that's
You're a medical like no, get on with your job. No, like, aren't we
that's right.
heroes? Shut up, get on with it,
That's
you
right.
know?
It's terrible.
And it yeah. So it's like you know nothing will run without these quote unquote key workers, but you don't actually offer them any respect. Like, you don't
There you
actually
go.
offer them any support. Like,
Right.
yeah, you like,
And you can't garner respect by being able to manipulate a spreadsheet so that it kicks out the right schedule or the right financial picture. That you don't garner respect that way. The only way to garner respect is closing the 25-year gap. It's the only
mm,
way. You've got to
I,
know.
yeah,
You've got to know what makes your people tick and why they're happy and why they're sad and why they're staying and why they're leaving. You have to know. You have to know that.
no, I, I because yeah, because of the time of where it is right now, and if I, I by the God of all things, if I do wake my child, I will
Yeah,
have
yeah.
I have the
That's
price
right.
to pay.
Then that's fine. That's a
Oh
different
no,
form of leadership.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a small, mighty dictator, malevolent. We shall see. But like, yeah, I
Wow.
have to ask now, with regards to like with everything you're trying to do and accomplish, where
Sure.
would you like to like if you could say if I could get to point A or point B,
Right.
where
Right.
would that sort of look like in say
Hmm.
3 to 5 years time?
Well, with the veteran work, I would really like corporations to take the next step and do the real giving back to veterans and build environments where they don't have this phenomenon, where they feel welcome and they have policies and procedures that that enable a veteran to come in,
Mm,
experience this phenomenon, this transition phenomenon, and have that be a positive experience where it helps them transition. So in that space, that's a for sure. In the leadership space, what I really want people to do, I really think that, you've kind of got it right off the last 20 years. I want people to engage with their leaders, kind of like I did. I want to be able to speak to the young people at certain levels to get them to engage with their leaders with the right questions. Because in the end, human beings get up every day and they want to do the right thing. It's less than 1% of people that get up in the morning and say, I'm going to go do something evil. Most everybody wants to do the right thing, but sometimes they don't know what the right thing is, or at least where their energies need to be focused.
Mm.
And I want to invert that. I want young people to be engaging with the more experienced people, asking the right questions and helping themselves grow. And they need permission to do that. And that 25-year, that's another 25-year gap. But that 25-year gap won't grow, won't close until leaders, till we have real leaders, because real leaders actually do have an approachability to them, which gives you the opportunity to ask the question. And they're going to make you feel good about asking the question and not bad.
I hear you. I hear you. Ah, Dave, Dave, it's been a pleasure having you on
Yeah,
today,
you
sir.
bet.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, I wish I could speak to you more, but yes, as I
Yeah.
say, uh,
Anytime. Hit me
oh,
back up. We'll do another hour.
oh, indeed, indeed. Can you tell the people out there how they can find you out there on
Oh,
these
sure.
interwebs?
Sure. Yeah, there's two websites. One is getfitready.org, and that website is for the veteran work. And then Max Fab Consulting, MAXFAB consulting.com. And that is all about attitude and leadership and how we carry ourselves through the world and making a difference in some small way every day in a positive way and moving forward onward.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. I'll put all of this information into the show notes. So yeah, please track down Dave, like connect with him, and yeah,
Yeah,
let's see how far you can help you go
that's
uh,
right.
in positive things.
Amen. That's right.
Absolutely. Let me just say to you, my friends, my life warriors, thank you for sticking with us all the way to the end of the show. Please stay well, stay safe, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Have a great day, guys. Peace. Oh yeah, we are out.